Welcome to Sleepy Tales. My name is Mateus, and before we begin today's story, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below saying, "I'll sleep well tonight." Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into tonight's tale. Lucas had been dreading this day for weeks. It was the day of his big history exam, and he hadn't studied nearly as much as he should have. He couldn't concentrate in class, and he felt like his mind was all over the place. As he sat in his seat, staring blankly at the chalkboard, he heard a commotion in the hallway. At first, Lucas didn't think much of it. Kids were always yelling and laughing in the hallways, and he was used to it by now. But then he heard screams, and he knew something was terribly wrong. He stood up, trying to get a better view of the hallway through the small window in the door. That's when he saw the man with a mask over his face, carrying a large knife. Lucas quickly scrambled back to his seat, his heart racing. He could hear the man's footsteps getting closer and closer, and he knew he had to do something. He looked around the classroom, trying to come up with a plan. The other students were huddled together, some crying and others shaking with fear. No one knew what to do. Suddenly, the classroom door burst open, and the man with the knife walked in. Lucas froze, unsure of what to do next. The man's eyes scanned the room, and then he walked straight towards Lucas. Lucas braced himself for the worst, but the man just walked right past him and towards the back of the room. Lucas breathed a sigh of relief, but his heart was still pounding in his chest. He looked around the room again, trying to come up with a plan. That's when he saw the fire extinguisher hanging on the wall. He knew it was risky, but he had to try. Lucas stood up, grabbed the fire extinguisher, and charged towards the man. The man turned around, surprised, and Lucas swung the fire extinguisher at him with all his might. It hit the man square in the face, knocking him to the ground. The other students screamed and cheered, and Lucas felt a surge of adrenaline. He had saved the day. But then he looked closer at the man on the ground. The mask had fallen off, and Lucas gasped in shock. It was one of his classmates, a quiet boy who sat in the back of the classroom. The police arrived soon after, and the school was put on lockdown. The students were all herded into the gymnasium, where they sat on the floor in silence. No one knew what to say, or what to do. Hours passed, and the students grew restless. They were hungry and thirsty, and they wanted to go home. But the police wouldn't let them leave. They said they needed to question everyone to make sure there were no more suspects. As the night wore on, Lucas couldn't stop thinking about the boy who had tried to kill them. He had been so quiet, so unassuming. Lucas wondered what could have driven him to such a violent act. Finally, the police announced that they had found something. They took Lucas and a few other students to a small room where they showed them a video. It was a video of the boy who had tried to kill them, being beaten up and taunted by a group of boys. Lucas recognized them; they were his friends. Lucas felt sick to his stomach. He had known that his friends could be cruel, but he never thought they would go this far. He looked around the room at the other students who had also seen the video. They all looked equally stunned. As they left the room, Lucas knew that things would never be the same. He couldn't look at his friends in the same way anymore. He felt guilty for not standing up for the boy who had been bullied, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he had played a part in what had happened. The next day, the school reopened, and the students returned to their classes. But everything was different now. Lucas's friends had been arrested, and the boy who had tried to kill them was in the hospital, recovering from his injuries. Lucas tried to focus on his studies, but he couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. He felt like he had been given a second chance, a chance to make things right. He started speaking up more in class, and he even joined the school's anti-bullying club. Months went by, and the school slowly returned to normal. But Lucas never forgot what had happened. He had learned that sometimes the people you thought were your friends could be your worst enemies, and that standing up for what was right was more important than anything else. As graduation day approached, Lucas felt proud of himself for what he had accomplished. He had aced his history exam, and he had made a real difference in his school. He had even been accepted to his dream college, where he planned to study psychology and help other kids who had been bullied. But on the day of graduation, as he walked across the stage to receive his diploma, something strange happened. A figure appeared in the crowd, wearing a mask and holding a knife. Lucas froze, his heart racing. He looked around, trying to find someone to help him, but no one seemed to notice. The figure in the mask started walking towards him, and Lucas could hear his classmates screaming and running for the exits. He knew he had to act fast. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small spray can, the kind used for self-defense. As the figure approached him, Lucas sprayed the can in his face, and the figure stumbled backwards. The mask fell off, revealing a familiar face, one of his former friends, the ringleader of the bullying group. Lucas couldn't believe it. He had thought he had put all of that behind him, but here it was, coming back to haunt him on one of the most important days of his life. As the police arrived to take his former friend away, Lucas realized that the real horror wasn't the school lockdown or the attempted attack, it was the fact that bullying could have such a lasting impact, even years later. From that day on, Lucas made a promise to himself to never forget what had happened, and to always stand up for what was right. He knew that he couldn't change the past, but he could use his experiences to make a better future. And with that, he walked off the stage, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Thank you for listening to this bedtime story, and remember, if you struggle with falling or staying asleep at night, click on the first link in the description for the ultimate solution to your problem. Now, choose one of these two videos and continue on our journey in the world of bedtime stories.